about. I paint like a barbarian. Like I have no sense of color, what do you call it, color schemes or what goes with what. It honestly is a combination of experimenting.
So you're not following any of the rules of color? Or
no, I don't want to know those rules because I feel like, not to be ignorant, because I do respect, no, but I do respect like people like Juliana who studied art and have a great knowledge about art history, technique. But the approach that I have, it's not that I don't want to educate myself, because I do slowly building my knowledge and finding out, about the Mark Rothko and the Franz Klein, all the people that I'm interested in, I follow, and I'm educating myself on that. But I feel like if I learn too much, it might affect my primitive way of approaching this, and I feel like I'm leaving a lot to learn. Like if I'm following a tangent where I constantly have to learn, then my desire to keep creating keeps going, and I'm learning as I'm doing. But if you're telling me everything ahead of time, then I'm sort of like blocked in. Like I need to follow those rules. Now, I'm discovering what works as I'm doing it, and the color schemes. Sometimes people are like, you put together colors that usually don't go together, you made it work. I heard that before, and I'm like, oh, great, thanks. So what I'm doing is working. Because I would have never thought of putting these colors together. That's for other paintings that I've done. And then sometimes even if the colors don't match, let's work on that too. Maybe that works, that it doesn't match. There's something about it. And I'm not saying anything goes and then you can call it art. That's a stupid argument too. I don't think you can do that. Like then everybody can just, take a shit on a napkin and call it art. Could be, right? Now these days we see people doing the most extreme things. There has to be some kind of control, even if it's chaos, the way you're producing. But the key word here is intent. Intent to me means thought behind something. And you can see it in a lot of abstract art, and when it's not there. You have a sense. You kind of go, oh, this painting has no intent. It can still be pretty to look at, but you can tell that there's no thought or real authenticity behind it. And that's what I'm looking for a lot. In my journey, I'm on the journey to find authenticity, which is the most important thing, I think. And how do you find it? With intent. Intent leads to finding authenticity, and that's what I call art. I think it's like, to me, in a way, a little mathematical formula. Intent plus authenticity equals art. All random thoughts that I have, but I think they make sense to me. So I think I did cover everything that I wanted to say.
What I found really beautiful in your work and hearing you speak is that somehow you're bypassing the brain, the logic. Like it's like you're working from your, it sounds cliche, but like from your soul, like from your essence.
Yeah.
And you're bypassing that. Like you're not, like when you're saying about, I don't want to think about the colors, I don't want to think, because it's like, you're bypassing it, like it's going from your arm, and your gestures are connected straight to your heart. And it kind of reminds me, like when we're working on this statement and you're talking about, and when you're saying like it's primitive, it's raw, and it may sound silly, but I'm a mother of young kids, and when I see them get into the zone, in the flow, why the sky is green? Because it makes sense to them, and the intent is there. It's not because they're kids, because sometimes we want to say, okay, kids don't know anything, but when they get in the zone of being creative, they go to that primitive zone, and I think that we never lose it. Once we go into being creative, I think that we find ourselves, and I think that you're finding yourself back into little Tommaso, and you're bypassing the brain. I think that it's great what you're doing about educating yourself, but not enough to lose that. Like you don't want your brain to start feeding these rules and ideas from somebody else.
Beautifully said.
So,
Absolutely.
And you can see. So that's why when I saw your work, it took the 3 years that it took to put that here. I've always been a fan, because I see that. I see that it's raw, but in this way of from your soul, from your essence, it comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make it clear too, I don't want to disrespect the people that have studied art by saying that I don't want to learn about it. Like that to me, it's a fine line what I'm saying, because you know I do respect it a lot. There's a lot of technique involved and types of brushes, types of oils, all that stuff. And I keep that to myself when I'm learning. I try not to influence me too much, because I still want to keep this spirit. And if you look at how when children draw, it's amazing. I mean, they have no sense. Nobody taught them. In fact, I mean, if you look at primitive cave paintings, nobody taught them anything, but they're so beautiful and so just pure. And that's what I'm trying to find, you know, this purity in the approach, and let go. And I don't want to, you know, badmouth things, but for example, I just have to make the distinctions to what sometimes bothers me about art, is when people write the word love on their canvas, and they do that all, I see a million people, love, like, and not talking about that live, laugh, love thing, which I, but it's like, if you have to say the word love, or whatever it is, to convey the feeling, you can do it without putting the word, like, you know, just maybe the way your painting says love. So to blatantly say the word, because it's a nice message, peace, love, and all that stuff. Aside from the fact that I don't want to stare at that word when I see it every day, like, oh, love, peace. Because I'm not always in that mood anyway. And it's okay to have other feelings, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always, you know, one thing. So I try to stay away from these kind of messages, things like that. I think you can speak a lot just by the way you're approaching the painting process. That should kind of relieve you from having to use words. You can, but that's not my thing.
What I see is that it's all intuitive, and yet you're making so many decisions in a minute, in a less than a minute. There's constant decision making going on. So that's the other part of the brain that you're using, even though it's free and intuitive. And I see, among other amazing things with your work, is this tension between minimal and letting go totally. And some of your work is more minimal than others, and like how you balance that and how you decide, because the minimal, you seem like a more maximalist personality or whatever, so to hold back is so powerful, because the minimal, all the works work, but the minimal works are so powerful to me, and yet you have to have this restraint to not keep going. So I don't know if you could talk to that at all, but this is something that I'm excited about, your work, and seeing how you do that. You know,
Absolutely.
It's a...
Well, first of all, thank you for noticing that. That's awesome. There is restraint, because the one behind you, I could have added a couple of more strokes. I mean, there are things you can add to make it maybe a better painting or a worse painting, but to me that was the exact moment where I saw that.
This one.
Yeah, that one. The right side with that kind of like movement, and all the movements within that movement. I mean, there's a brush stroke that's indicative of that section right there worked for me, but I had to balance it. So I added that stuff at the top left. And then I said, go away, just move away from this, you know? Like, you don't want to ruin it. I thought it was a beautiful moment. Those are all moments in time.
It's not easy to do.
Yeah, because I want to kind of go nuts and just do more. But that's the most challenging part, when to let go and step away, you know? It's easy to keep adding things and see how they land. There are busy pieces here. This one too. This was a whole different painting. That sometimes there's 7 paintings behind this. You know what I mean? I'm sure you all know. You've done it before.
That's interesting, that dialoguing.
Oh yeah, this is the crazy, and that's the relaxed, the more composed, like.
That says the punk ages.
Yeah, exactly. As the punk ages, he goes into a more mellow jazz vibe. Yeah, and we're all artists here, and I think we all understand, you know, the process, and everybody has
just for your words?
That's a great question too. I don't know if it's legal or not, but I sometimes take the titles from songs that I like. Okay? It could be techno songs like that. One's called Control and Voltaje. How do you say in Spanish? Voltage, Voltaje? Voltaje. Control, Voltaje. Which, by the way, I like to mix languages too. But that's French. The temps, the truth, I think I'm saying it correctly. I don't know French.
Sounds.
But it means time destroys everything. That one, Theme with Noise, is the title of one of my favorite songs from Sonic Youth. And I thought it was awesome. Theme with
The
Noise.
titles come after they're done?
Titles come
Right.
after. Oh, yeah.
Because you step up to the plate, you have no idea what you're gonna do,
I
right?
have
It's just
no idea. In
it's
fact,
the music, right? And after you look at them and is it the song that's playing the moment? It doesn't have to be, right? You can just look at it and be like,
it's funny you say that sometimes, because of whatever psychological thing I'm going through, it's like the song, when I'm finally satisfied, whatever song is
That's
playing,
what
like
gets
musical
it.
chairs, you know, that's the song. Oh, it's meant to be that
Gotcha,
style.
yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, oh, this doesn't match at all. Sometimes
Right.
I listen to death metal music and the titles are like Corpse Grinder. I'm like, you don't want to use
so you
that.
gotta search for another one.
Yeah, you gotta search. But I sit down and I'm looking and I go through my playlist and I'm like, oh, which one? Oh, this one sounds like it matches that. Like even the matching up words and what I'm doing, that's part of the art process too. 'Cause I
So you
think-
do want to match. So do you don't leave any like untitled?
Yeah, a few I call them
But the
titles.
majority are titled?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to leave some type of clue to the painting, because you just said right now the title matches
Yeah.
some of the stuff, right? So
The other thing too, I don't know if I should even say this, but the title to me doesn't really matter that much. I don't feel like that's what speaks. What speaks is the actual painting.
Yeah.
So I can call it, I don't know, Steve. Who cares? Like, I mean, I don't want to call it just Steve, right? That makes no sense. But, you know, I try to come up with words that click with the feel of what it is. Like Theme with Noise, it's so generic and minimalistic, even the words used, theme with noise. That's a theme, and the noise is that strip. You know, that's the noise that interrupts the theme. Sonic Youth, I think they approach music as if they're painting. I approach painting as if it was music. I'm speaking for Sonic Youth, but the way I see, you know, I mean, like, they're weird, like, what the hell are you talking about? But I feel like what they have done for years, it's like they're very experimental. You know, they're punk.
You're very what?
Experimental in their approach. They have songs that are 8 minutes long with like just noise of guitars. That to me is painting with music. I mean, when you look at their catalog, and there's a million other bands that do this kind of stuff. I mean, look at Yoko Ono, for example. She's just like, ah! That's painting with your instrument, with your voice. Like, in a way, I'm not saying that synesthesia, whatever that is, where I see colors with music. In a way I do, but I'm not gonna go as far as saying I have that condition, so I'm like, yeah, I'm a gifted person with a superpower. I just do see, I do feel something that matches colors with music, you know, so that's one of the
yeah, yeah. The reason I ask is I know that like I know you said titles weren't that important, but like for example, let's just say that the name of that song happened to be like The Green Bird, and then someone looks at the title. To me, like a lot of the times when I step up in my work person, I don't like to give anything. I would also notice like you don't sign the front, and I like this paint to be about the paint and just the mood, and like even you could flip around these around 4 ways and it's a completely different meaning. So for me, my work is always about like just no clues, just the mood, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
So like if there was a title like The Green Bird, let's just say, and someone reads it, now they're kind of already framed within, okay, I gotta find the green bird here, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I think because you tie it to music, you're kind of giving like a little bit of a clue or a hint to be like, hey, this is, connecting, because it seems like art, painting and music is really your thing. That's the main bridge.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I know you said titles aren't that important, but I think when someone reads it, they're like, whoa, okay. You are giving like a big clue to your work.
Absolutely, and am I what do you call it? When you're saying something, but then you take it back, contradict. I might contradict myself sometimes. Yes, when I say they're not that important, in the sense that you're right, I don't wanna be too indicative of what the painting is or what it's about. I wanna keep it a bit broad, so they're not forced to think that this is a green bird.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I agree with you. Also, the thing about signing the front, I used to do it in the beginning. I was told, yes, and so did I sign that one in
The
the
big
front?
one.
But it's in the front, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the last of the Mohicans paintings that
I just watched the movie last night.
Yeah, no way. Wow.
I decided to watch it at midnight.
That's crazy that I said that. That's not.
I love. Actually, I listen to the soundtrack when I paint. I love the soundtrack.
What are the chances that I mentioned
Everything that you're saying is just honestly, it's like a mirror of like my process.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only
I
one.
mean, that's why I think that's how I found you online because I kind of follow, talking about Instagram.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I agree with you. Like if I started putting my name, it ruins the
It
paint.
becomes like a brand, it's like Adidas,
It becomes a
It's
brand.
like
And
yeah.
also my handwriting. I'm sorry. The painting is not ruined.
It's a collector. No, it's more. It's more.
It's a
That
image
comes
is
with a
very
collector's
eye.
That painting is awesome that you have.
It's a
But
rare.
I started a whole, I've evolved a little in a different way. I think that, I just don't want to stay, I sign it, it's at the top.
Mm.
Like I sign on the side or the top or the back. I don't want to also make it about, just the name. My handwriting is awful. Like when I write, it's like, it just really kind of ruins the vibe. Like my handwriting is just crap. So I just sign the top and, because I don't try to do it in cursive. Cursive, it's like chicken scratch. But in caps, it's like elementary school writing on something that is very like classy or whatever you want to call it, the word, I don't
More
even know.
sophisticated.
Yeah, sophisticated, thank you. Not sophisticated, not classy.
I think there's also a challenge, I'm finding a challenge here in Florida, that people want things a little more decor,
Mm-hmm.
even this kind of explosive work. Like they'll want the signature, they'll want the size painted, and I've been like struggling with this for a few years now. So I have some that have the sides painted, some aren't, but I don't want to sign the front, it's just, But occasionally for a collector, if they want me to sign the work, I will consider doing it and do it.
Absolutely.
But I think it's also sort of a Florida thing, there's like, even if they love the work the way it is, I can't explain it, it's just.
I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. And I just sent 2 pieces to New York, and when they arrived, they loved it, and then they're like, oh, but they're not signed in the front, and they're like, when you come to New York, you have to sign the front. I'm like,
That's surprising.
that's never gonna happen. I'm not gonna sign the front, so I'm not gonna go see them.
And there's different markets for the work too, so.
yeah, that's my new decision is to just let the work speak for itself and not be about the name.
Oh, I may have missed this part. Do you paint on stretch canvas or do you paint unstretched and stretch it out?
Oh, good question. No, it has to be stretched, mostly because I like to handle it and move it around and be more flexible. Also, it hurts my back to if I put it on the ground, I don't like to paint on the ground. Then you can totally put nails in, but it's not stretched enough, so you see all these wrinkles, and I don't want to paint on wrinkles. So everything is prepared, ready to go. Like I want to paint on that stretched piece. Now, it's more economical to maybe like roll a whole thing out, like Basquiat used to do that, and then just cut it and do it all that. Also, I think, stretching canvases, it's a lot of work. I want to get started. I don't have time for. I have Jerry's build these for me, the linen ones, and then I buy others that are pre-made, and they're great. It's good wood, good, ready to
On sale.
don't get me wrong. I have built with a friend. Obviously, I needed some help with stretched canvases and built a huge one. Took forever, the stapling and all that. By the time you're done, you feel like painting. You're just like, I'll get back to it next. There are people that love it. I don't know. I just want to get started. If I'm going into the studio, I want to get started on that.
One last question for me is, you say you prepare yourself to tackle the painting, get into the pocket. So do you make a specific song list
Mhm.
for that period?
Yeah. In fact, in between sessions, I love to just go down the rabbit hole and find new music. Like there's so many bands out there that obviously you don't hear about, because MTV used to be the main way we get the music. Now it's all spread all over the place. But through technology or algorithm that tells you if you like this, you like this, then there's a whole chain of things that leads you to find all this new music. And there's so many great artists.
So you have a
out
whole body of music ready
Yeah.
once you get in, and then you get it.
And then I press play and boom.
So you're creating a playlist, which is creative also.
Yeah.
You're curating.
Curating, it's a curated playlist. I tend to keep it to, usually it's 4 hours, and
Wow.
because I think I want to be able to print it on a CD, and that's the most you can do, like 4.5 hours. And that's my thing. I don't know what I'm telling you this. That's
No,
anyway,
that's
man.
cool.
We're talking about CD mixes, and I'm still one of the last people that still make CDs. I mean, people like I do Spotify to send people playlists.
Can I take some pictures and post them with your tag on them? Or,
Yeah, please go ahead. There's no.
yes. You can tell people, don't move.
Yes, I mean.
This is affirming.
By the way, I
to me.
love your shoes.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
laces, those colors are awesome. And the socks, yeah, that right there, all those colors are beautiful painting right
You're
there.
inspired.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate all of you coming out. It's really fun. This is my first time speaking. I mean, I did a solo show last year, but I didn't have to speak this
It's
much.
great.
I think it helps.
Good job.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I really hope I did a good job. I
You
don't know
did.
if I came through with my message, but
You did.
thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
And yeah, we gotta look for us too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, that was, well, after talking to you, found everything, but no, thank you for this, it's great.
Absolutely.
Man, everything you said was just like, it's exactly my same
Well,
process.
thank you for saying that too, because I kind of want to hear. Like, I haven't been to a lot of these talks. I've seen some online, but I kind of want to attend more. I want to see what other people are saying.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes, like, I'm very alone in this whole thing.
Yeah,
Like, it seems maybe that I'm like networking up, but I'm mainly like sort of sheltered in
Yeah.
my own little world, doing my thing, and then as you do this, other people like to have a discussion along with you. So I one day I want to see you.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
no problem, man. And I seen your art, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You do a lot of pieces like at once too, or you kind of focus one at a time.
No, same as you, man. Like, I have my studio up and I paint also on stretched already on the wall, on the floor sometimes, really like just anywhere, and I move from one to the other.
Yeah.
And it's, there's always music on. It's more Pandora, and it kind of sucks because,
So you
like,
like
I'm trapped within their algorithm, so
Yeah.
I don't spend the time before, because like, I like music, but I'm not like, I guess into music as you are.
Sure.
But there's music for sure, and I kind of just, it's a mix of, mostly acrylic, no oils, acrylic, spray, sometimes some markers and just a bunch of like different tools and brushes. Sometimes it's even brushes that dried up and they're hard and they're just like this and they create different, you know what I mean? So for me, like there is, like you're saying, no rules, there is no, for me there's no mistakes. Of course, when there's something like this that I do that's more minimal, more sophisticated, then I'm like, okay, I'll back off. But when there's works that are like, I can't be like messed up, it's just that process.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's hard to know when it's done.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's done when I need to eat and I need to sleep and I need to, hydrate, I haven't drank water in 3 hours.
It's true, like,
I'm
you
like, alright,
forget
it's
to
done
drink
because
water.
my wife
So-
calls me or it's like 9 o'clock and she's like at home with the baby. I'm like, okay, it's done. That's when it's done. So, but no, the process is the same. It's mainly on the wall, and I turn a lot, I work a lot around.
Mhm.
And what I do a lot too is sometimes in the beginning, like it'll be crazy, but then after, like it starts getting less and less moves or strokes per I guess per time, whatever it is. So like I'll do one move and then I'll go back on the other side of the studio on my chair and then just look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it, listen to music. Sometimes I'll look at it for 1 second, and like you said, I'll see a color on the floor and think that's the color. Or sometimes it'll be half an hour. Sometimes it's an hour. Sometimes I'll go get a coffee and come back, and it's just that process, you know,
Yeah, a lot of staring for me.
a lot of staring, right? And then sometimes it's also a lot of emotion too, you know, like just I'll make something and I'm like, oh, it's the best thing ever, right? And then after I look for it, I'm like, I hate it. So then I'll just go and I'll with like a color over it and then start over, and then it becomes. So it's just that creative force, you know. It's it's that creative force that, you know, what is art? I don't know. Art is just we're artistic. We're like you mentioned the soul, you know. Like there's something really, you know, spiritual about it, or however you want to go about it. That's more than just, you know, what we see. It's just creative forces. You know, what you're talking about, even music. You know, everything is a creative force. Everything that we do is creative.
Yeah.
I guess my last question, if I can ask you, is because something I'm always, and I'm sure all artists are, is like, you know, I'm always like,
Do I get
not
depressed?
not struggling with it, but I think it's just that lifelong process, not just as an artist, but I think as a human being, is like, what's your message? You know, like, is there a message that you're trying to convey? And I think that message probably changes over time as you mature and you get different facets of life, you know, and family, whatever things, but do you have like an overall message that you want to convey with your pieces, or is it just like the work yourself, your creativity is the message, or is there some type of thing that you want, you know, to get through to the world?
You know, there's art that's political, there's art that is religious, there's art that has all kinds of messages within the context that's in. You know, African American art, Indian art, like just there's so many ways and schools of thought. In my case, I often think about this. What is the message that I'm trying to
So
give?
sure, yeah, it's a common.
I'm
This is a
definitely,
good discussion.
but I know, because it is a very good question. And it's a scary question, because if you say I don't have a message, then what's the point?
And there's pressure to have
And there's
a message
pressure
these
to have a
days,
message.
especially because the conceptual art is big. I think it's influenced by that, and maybe graduate schools. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing is this, I want to create pieces that are timeless, and in order to do that, you have to stay away from any kind of angle. It could be political views, and I'm not saying that if you do that it's wrong or it's not timeless, because that itself represents a time when you had that kind of message, you know, maybe against racism or whatever it is, and it's great. I love all that stuff. I haven't found something that I want to say where I'm just, you need to hear this. This is my point of view. Or maybe I'm doing it and I'm not aware of it. You know what I mean? But it's nothing to do with anything societal. You know, or.
Sometimes I don't realize till after that.
Right. When you look in retrospect, I mean, I created this body of work and it represented this, but I think you touched on the fact that, God, that definitely sounds cliche, but like a human experimenting and trying to expose himself to his soul. And by the way, another great quote I heard is artists love to hide behind the words, but also want to be seen. It's like this constant thing. I kind of don't want to really talk about all of this. Yes, please, go ahead.
When I view all of this and what I think that your message is, let yourself burst into creativity.
Can that be a message? Because I love it. I mean, can that be accepted?
Is that what you said?
Yes.
She said, let yourself
into
burst
creativity.
into creativity, and
For
just
each
like,
of us, let yourself burst into
and now there's very important art that has great distinct messages. And I'm a big fan of those, but I don't think I'm capable, nor I've experienced anything that I need to fight against. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really grow up. I mean, I moved from Italy to the States. I have cultural differences that I can see maybe the world with a broader view, because I speak two different languages and I grew up in two different parts of the world. That kind of definitely influenced my creativity, but I don't have like a story where, you know, like maybe I was a refugee coming to, because there's art from refugees that speaks volume. It's amazing, you know, and I respect that. But I'm not gonna pretend to be part of that, because I didn't have that story. I don't think I'm any less valuable than their art because I didn't struggle, you know what I mean? So I think it's just different, you know, tangents that we all experience, and I gotta speak from my truth and my experience, you know? I'm not gonna, you know, pretend, you know, and I see a lot of people doing like the Basquiat thing, you know, like with do the big skull and the crown and all that. And it's like, why don't you find your own voice? And that really drives me crazy. Because he had a message, he had his own social, political, economical like views, and he expressed that with his paintings, also about being an African American person. Well, am I gonna start doing that? No, it's a completely different story, you know. So you have to respect everybody's point of view, and that's a great question, because the message is, you know, throwing yourself into the creativity, and maybe I will have something more defined as I keep moving forward into this journey, you know.
I have two minds about it. One, it gets me mad. I also teach abstract art sometimes, so it's like, on one hand, abstract art is what it is, and maybe our role is to help the world appreciate it for what it is. It's an experience, and it's immersive. You know, immersive is like a big word right now, but it's experiential, you know, so let it be what it is. And so then I get mad when people want the story and want this, and the dealers want to tell them so they can sell it and blah, 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 blah. You know, and on the other hand, messages come from the work, you know what I mean? I don't know, I mean, I'm in three minds about it. The other thing is, let other people write about it. You know, like Juliana could talk about this work, I'm sure, you know? And I feel like I could talk about it. Like the work, you know, there's, you know, you can talk about it, you know? So it's like, I haven't figured out how to traverse between no story and story, but it's like, please people, just let abstract art breathe and let it be what it is and be there with it, you know? So I'm of both minds. I'm still working through this, and then sometimes story emerges from my work that I didn't plan to begin with, but because I'm dealing with dualities and tensions between things, that's also creating this story, you know? Even your maximal minimal thing, there's story.
That's a story itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, like this is, it's become an object. You know, it's like the minimal thing, there's an object there, and it's like, can you catch it? Can you touch it? You can't quite. You know, so there's the ethereal thing, and yet there's the material thing, and like that's the story, you know?
Well, so you read a book, right? Writer writes a book. You read
Sorry if I'm talking too much.
No, but I like what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Like, are we gonna dissect like the writer, like you experience something after reading that book, and it's your own thing, and that's the whole goal. Like maybe the writer intended for something else. They have creative control over what they put out, and that's their vision. But maybe the point is to let the viewers create their own meaning and understand it in their own way. So I'm kind of setting up like I go back to like the you know, the song things. Like I say, these are all songs. Some are better than others, some touch people more than others. In fact, when you hear music, some people I don't feel anything from one, and others are like, oh my God, this song is amazing. So maybe, and these songs sometimes are made in 5 minutes, and it was just a fast thing, but they made a complete difference in somebody's life. So never really investigate too much on the intentions of the artist, but just sort of accept, like you say, the art for what it is, and enjoy it, experience the art as it's supposed to be. It's laid out in front of your eyes, and then you create your
I think that's absolutely 100%, but I think, like, you know, in intimate artist talks, it's good to kind of ask, you know what I mean? But like, I think, but approaching, like, from an overall, like, standpoint, I need to know every artist what their thing is, and it's like, you know, it's overwhelming. But I think once you kind of get back behind the scenes, you know, and just a quick thing that I was thinking, and this is why I like these conversations, and I'm like you, I wish there was more community. Anyways, that's a whole other thing, self-worth and community, but it's almost like the message, right? Like when art, you mentioned the cave drawings in the beginning, there was always a message in I think there was, I don't know if it was utility, but there was a message, there was function, there was some type of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for, but there was some type of, usefulness.
Yeah, it was also
Changing
a
something.
historic depiction of what they had to
What's I'm saying, so like
do.
throughout time, from the cave to, religious art to Renaissance to everything, there was always like a message, right? It was a story, it was a message. And I think to work that is coming out right now, in, your type of work, kind of what I do, which is, I think, how can I explain this? I had to start that. It's almost like as it becomes more non-representational, more abstract, more about just like the raw emotion, the soul, the energy, the creative force, it's almost evolving. Because like if no one would have done something like this, a couple hundred years ago or 1,000 years ago. Because they were always trying to like, have a message, like it's human, stick, whatever it was. So now it's like, as time goes on, somebody might look at this and be like, oh, this is, a child can do this, what is this? My 5-year-old can do this.
I've heard that.
And I hear all the time in my work, what I mean? Like you said, the 4 lines, whatever that you did, the 5 lines, you're like, oh, I know you can do that.
Right.
But the fact is, like, it came from something that, how can I explain, from like, the way I see it, it's like, it's becoming more pure. Even though it looks like it's, just craziness and randomness, it's actually becoming more representation of like what we really are inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like evolving to like our true nature that, is underneath this, the skin, our,
That's a
what we
beautiful
call the
way
spirit,
to
the
put
soul,
it.
whatever it is, that we're all just, created, full of light and energy, and we're in a world that sucks right now.
Yeah.
But I think we were put in this world, to shine, to be creative, and love, peace, like you said, all that stuff. And I think that's really what comes out. Is that message it's there, and what is that message? That message is just like the soul coming out, like who you are.
Yeah.
Because you did that. This is like who you are inside. It's kind of like a window into who you are.
It's like the DNA of your soul.
Yeah, and I think the further we go on, hopefully it doesn't get too now. Everything's turned now digital, right? Metaverse and everything.
Right.
Maybe we're gonna go back into, we got to the soul and we're back into the matrix. But we're kind of breaking out of that, so to speak, with this work. And that's how I feel too when I came. Like I don't want it to be about anything. I want it to just be about like, whatever. I don't know. But just adding that, Christopher Wool, the artist?
Yes. Oh my God.
His texture work, like I started following that a couple years ago, and I don't know if that's wrecked me, it messed me up because now like I somehow like I need to do text.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you're used to my work, but like I'm doing text
I've
art.
seen the text that you put in.
And now I'm like, oh, am I doing too much? We go back, but like, I don't know, I love his work, and his messages were just random stuff. I think they're pop culture, a lot of like different stuff. But I got a little influence from him, and those are literal messages, right? Because they're words, but that's just a little side note that I'm like kind of stuck in that.
Christopher Wool kind of also has this cool like kind of like when you're cleaning the
Yeah, a lot of
huge like
almost like a Richter type style, but like very minimal.
exactly,
different,
and it's more like window like sponge window washing. So you see the lines. Christopher Wool.
WOOL.
Hey guys, we have to be
No,
done.
that's
Oh,
it.
sorry.
That's
But you guys just stay.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
What's your name?
I'll talk
Mario.
to you.
Mario?
Yeah.
What your last name?
Okay,
Nice seeing you.
If you on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram.
You used the word chaos.
I don't know.
And
Yeah.
I'm very intrigued with the whole concept
You know
of
me?
chaos, and I
Oh, really?
came across
Okay, great, yeah. What's your name?
somebody saying this recently and stuck in my
Oh,
mind.
okay, yeah. Oh, I think you comment sometimes my work and stuff. Yeah.
Water.
I wanted to talk with you.
Not
Oh, no
yet
way.
decided.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I met him on
So it's kind of ties in with what he's
I was
saying,
telling
is
him,
that
like,
eventually everybody,
Instagram.
if this-
Yeah, no.
if this holds together, it means in
Studio's
this
closing,
there's
yeah.
something
2
there,
months
Yeah.
knocking it all down,
and
so.
people will find it.
You know?
That's beautiful. I
Yeah,
love
he's
it.
my
Very
neighbor,
good.
yeah. He's my neighbor.
I was hoping to be there that day.
Yeah, he's my